A bipartisan conference committee, well, they started meeting yesterday trying to reach a border security deal that averts a government shutdown on February 15, the 15th. Senator James Lankford serves on the Homeland Security Committee. Senator, how are you? It's good to see you again, and welcome back to our program. We're trying to dip in here and get some bits and pieces from potential progress. Can you report any, Senator?
Can't report any progress right now. My main focus is keep everyone on focus on something small and straightforward on border security. If we're focusing on border security, surely we can find some common ground. This has not been some partisan issue in the past. Secure Fences Act was bipartisan. There's been multiple issues of bipartisan work. The last 5 presidents have built fencing. That fencing and border security has not been partisan. So let's try to get it into the realm where we really can focus and solve it.
You heard Senator Capito say, I think we're heading in the right direction. We had a Democratic congressman on last hour who he wasn't given much ground, but you have a different take after hearing Democratic Senator Chris Coons earlier today. What did you hear there?
Yeah, Senator Chris Coons this morning came out and said the same thing typically that is said by Republicans and Democrats. Let's look at the officials that are out there. Let's look at the professionals. Let's look at the priorities that are there. There's going to be some area that's going to need fencing. Some areas need technology. Some areas need additional personnel. And then let's actually get that executed rather than trying to second guess those professionals. What the president has asked for is 234 miles of fencing on a 2,000-mile long border. That doesn't seem an unreasonable request, and he's even placed it saying all this has been studied. Here are the priorities that have been done by officials that are not him and the vice president. These are career folks that have looked at it and said, this is where we need greater security. This is where we need to replace fencing or add fencing. That's a pretty reasonable statement.
It appears the open negotiation from yesterday, the opening bid, let's say, was at not $10 for a barrier, which reflects Nancy Pelosi's position of several weeks ago. That may not be final, but it's at least the initial step here.
Well, they can make that initial statement unless anyone actually puts a camera down on the border and says, look at this fencing that's leftover metal from the Vietnam era, from landing pads. This doesn't stop anyone. This fencing needs to be replaced. So there's areas of fencing that clearly need to be replaced if anyone were to take time to be able to look at it. There's other areas to look at and say we've got a big city on one side and a big city on the other. We need to be able to have some kind of barrier. And when you go down to the Rio Grande Valley, in some of those areas, the highest drug trafficking that we have along that whole 2,000-mile long border, why would you not want to slow down drug trafficking coming across the border? So there are folks that can say not one single inch of barrier until you actually look at the facts. And I think the vast majority of the American people say, let's have some common sense here. Let's put barriers where we need it. Don't put it where we don't need it. But why would anyone say there's not a need for any when you look at the facts?
Did you see what the president said about your committee this morning by way of tweet?
I did not.
I'll read it to you. It says Republicans on the Homeland Security Committee are wasting their time. Democrats, despite all the evidence, proof, and caravans coming, are not going to give money to build the desperately needed wall. I've got you covered. Wall is already being built. I don't expect much help. If you're hearing that for the first time, how do you react?
Well, the president obviously has some funding from previous years. The last 2 years, we've made sure that there is some funding to do some fencing. There is construction that's going on, and that's a good thing. On the legislative branch, we have a job to be able to try to find some resolution on that. Obviously, the president has things that he has to do as well. But in our best effort, let's try to make the effort and actually see if we can get it done. If at the end of the day, the Democrats who told us reopen the government for 3 weeks, and then we'll make a deal on all this border security. If they were actually lying or not telling the truth at that time period, that will be obvious to all the American people as well. But they said publicly over and over again, we are willing to negotiate on these things when the government's open. Now it's time to prove it.
You got a deadline 2 weeks from tomorrow. Senator, hope you come back, okay? James Lankford, Republican, Oklahoma. Thank you for your time.